Okay, so Osvaldo. Some of you have known Osvaldo, met Osvaldo. Osvaldo was one of the guys that I promoted fairly quickly when I came back as an interim CEO into Enea. Enea is a software company. And you will know Northvolt. If you're a production company of electric batteries, you need to understand and know how to produce batteries. Manufacturing is important. A software company, sometimes people think, especially at board level, that the software is just happening. It's something that you take for granted. But that is actually absolutely not the case. The software has to be built. And when you are in a competitive situation with the customer, you either win or lose also based on the quality of your software. And your salespeople need to feel really reassured that the software we're sending them out with is top-notch quality software, competitive, right priced, and quality in the build of the software. So promoting Osvaldo and making sure that we had the CTO, Chief Technology and Product Officer was very important for me. But you might have experienced this yourself. Sometimes when you have a CTO, these guys create their own reality almost. They have their own budget and they start doing things that might not be super connected to the business. So for me, one of the absolute very most amazing qualities of Osvaldo is that he has the commercial background. He's actually, once upon a time, was awarded Salesperson of the Year in his native Argentina before he chose to go on a technology career. So I'm very happy to have Osvaldo. And Osvaldo, please share a bit of your background.
Okay, thank you very much. So my journey to the current role have been shaped by 30 years of telco experience. I started in the mid-90s. At that time, the mobile phones has the size of a brick, and probably you still remember that to connect to the internet, you have some sketchy noises before you get there. Since then, I have the privilege to work in some of the most transformative technologies in the industry, but I have contributed some of that. I've been 25 years working in Ericsson, having different roles, heading different positions, but mainly around the intersection between technology, sales, and product development. So in addition to the technology competence or experience that Anders mentioned, I have a global lead sales experience. I've had the privilege also to work and live in different places in Latin America, Europe, and also China. So I like to combine these two things. That my goal is to put Enea in the forefront of the technology, but not for the sake of technology, having very clear sight of the business and the return of investments of those.
So Osvaldo, why did you choose to join Enea?
The very first thing that I saw when I looked at Enea was this company making the transformation from a service-led into a product-centric. So then I saw that with my background of technical and sales roles, this was a perfect opportunity for me to contribute in that journey, for me to shape the vision of where we want to go, to scale the operation in order to have reusability and to be able to have tools in the hands of our salespeople to grow the businesses. Is this an amazing opportunity? So I saw that I can make a contribution. Also, what I really liked was that I saw this small, medium company from Sweden with headquarters in Stockholm, but with a truly global operation scale. We have customers all around the world. I connect very well to my broad understanding of different cultures and doing business in different ways. So I saw that's something that also resonated with me. And finally, the focus that Anders mentioned about cybersecurity and network performance. I truly believe that in security, privacy, and reliability as the foundation for modern communication. So as he for me is not only buzzwords. I think is essential for the business or the communication that we rely on today, and also the generations coming where my kids even depend on. So for me, Enea is an inspiring mission, and it's also an opportunity to get progress with scale.
Thank you for that, Osvaldo, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So before you take control, where I give you control now, so please invite us into our product portfolio with focus on cybersecurity, and also you're in charge of the crash course in SS7.
Okay, there will be some questions at the end maybe. So thank you very much. Let's start just getting started into Enea. I think one probably good way to start to understand who we are is basically to look at which are the markets that we serve. So which are our customers. So I will start with that angle. So Enea is today serving three main market segments. The first one is the telecom operators. Telecom operators are the ones building infrastructure and delivering the service to end users, like mobile communications. The second segment is called Communication Platform as a Service. It's a complicated name, but this is a group of players or companies that they play a role in between telecom operators and enterprise. In this domain, we call enterprise, we call it brands. But basically, it's about when PostNord send you a message that you can pick up your package. The CPaaS vendors are the one that are routing that message from PostNord into all telecom operators. And the third segment here is the cybersecurity vendors and large enterprise. Here what we do is we embed our technology into the products that many cybersecurity companies they have. Something around 70 companies are taking our technology and embedding this into either for creating or delivering a product or service or for their own use, as we'll see some examples. So that's the market we serve. If we now have a look into our portfolio, and I know this is one of the difficult slides because he gave a full picture about what we are doing. I will try to break it down into pieces and see if I can pick up some example to make it easier to understand. If we start on the top left part, this is what our customers, they call the brain of the network. The reason why they call it brain is because this is where we have the definition of the users and the services that the user is allowed to do. If you look down there is this traffic management. This is where we accelerate networks. So we help our customers to make sure that their networks perform better than anyone else. That the content that, like a video, it downloads faster than if you don't have this solution. Then if we move top on the more right side, then you see in the middle network security. This is where it's important, this is a seven, because this is where we have our firewalls, where we protect the signaling, or we protect the control channels of communications, and also we protect users about scam with messages. So we filter those messages so it doesn't reach the user. And then you see the embedded security. That is the technology that we do not sell directly to the end user, but we sell it to companies that integrate that into their own product and services. And then finally, you see operating systems. Operating system is something that Anders mentioned in the introduction. It has been in the company for many, many years. It has been the operating system from mobile phones and radio stations. Today, some of those radio stations are still in production, and we are having relative because we are expanding some of that install base with our public reference, Ericsson and Nokia. So that is the portfolio. Let me now pick up one example just to see if I can break this into something more easy to understand. Every time that I need to pick up one example that is easy, I pick up my mother. So but let's suppose that my mother sent me a message. When my mother connects to the network, she gets authenticated. So basically, the data management access part, look at her number, what are the services she's allowed to do, and then she send me a message. So she will send me a text message. That text message will go into our firewalls. The firewalls will scan in real time based on AI technology. They will scan the URL. Let's say that she put a URL for a link or to watch something. So even if I trust my mother, our firewalls will scan that and will check that there is no malwares or malicious link. And then if I click that link and I start to watch that video, the traffic management will optimize the video delivery. So we'll make sure that I have the best customer experience to download this and to watch this movie. And if this will not be a text message, but it will be a email that is sent to my company, then I think, of course, that will go into this embedded security, because embedded security will scan the email that I get in my computer, and then it will look like if that doesn't contain any malware, for instance. That is what we looking at the scanning threats. And of course, as you need mobility and connectivity, I think OS is there for in the radio stations providing that connectivity. Hope that it was a little bit more easier or clear. Working in technology, I have two roles. One is to deliver result. The other one is to explain to my mother why her phone doesn't work. Then moving into connecting the two things that we had seen so far, we look at the market we serve, we look at the portfolio. So very quickly here, on the left side, basically that is the portfolio that we sell to telecom operators. In the middle, network security, we sell it to both telecom operators and CPaaS providers, while embedded security, we sell it mainly to both cybersecurity vendors and large enterprise. And of course, operating systems, we are selling only to large enterprise like Ericsson, Nokia, Fujitsu. Those are using this part of the portfolio. Now, switching gears into another piece, a layer of information that we want to put on, it's the concept of business focus areas. When we talk to the market, we talk to you, we try to describe the dynamics, the underlying dynamics of our portfolio or business. We just try to describe it under something that is called business focus area. So what is that? Well, it's basically the whole portfolio except the operating systems. So we are carrying out the operating systems. We know that that is in a trajectory that we have expected declines in sales. And that's why we don't take it into when we talk about business focus areas where we look at where we see growth. And to describe that type of growth, we see it in two motions, in two dynamics, and that's what we have when we talk about business focus areas. We talk about networks and securities. And the reason why we split these two things is because they follow different dynamics. They follow different CAGRs or growth in the market, and that's why we want to measure and we want to compare what we are doing in these two parts of the portfolio. Now I will go one step further into what we are doing on the right side here, on the security side. To describe that, I would like to start again with the angle of where we are in terms of our market position. So today we are serving a global scale. As I mentioned before, we are in more than 80 countries where we are serving more than 100 operators or networks. We serve tier 1 operators here in the Nordics. You will hear soon from Telia. But we also have tier 1 players in North America, and I know key markets. And we have these three segments that I mentioned before. In terms of operation, we run an operation at a very large scale. We have 2.4 billion subscriptions or users that are getting protected by our software. In order to give that protection, we analyze this huge number of events. So we process real-time analysis around 50 billion events that we continuously scan, look at for threats, and block if there is any kind of threat to the user. To do that, we work on a global intel base. So basically, we have a combination of experts plus AI tools that we combined in order to build this type of global analysis about where the threats and where the incoming threats for a country. In addition to that, we are the reference. We write in specifications in the specific bodies. There is an organization called GSMA. That is where we write our recommendation specifications. But in addition to that, we are also referenced in the broader media. When the media need to cover topics around security for communications, typically we are providing insights of that. That's about the market or market presence or credentials, if we switch gears into our portfolio is designed to protect three business, is protect users or people, countries, and data. So if we look at start with people, imagine having at your control or your disposal the experts and the technology to be able to protect your privacy. What we do here is like a digital shield. We protect users for that important information like your location information that you are not here today, photographies come is it. Is not leakage to other players, other actors, especially foreign actors trying to attack some country networks. We also do a protection about that you don't receive fake calls. That is something you will hear from my colleagues later, CLI spoofing, but it's basically manipulation of the number to pretend that it's the bank that is calling you instead of an international call from another country. We also protect users from receiving fake messages or messages that include a threat, like a link to a malicious malware that can do an exfiltration of data. We also, when we talk about protecting companies, it's very much about protecting the borders. What we do with our firewalls is to protect the international calls coming to a country. The reason why we're doing this is because networks are a matter of national security. So there are actors that are attacking, which has received state-sponsored attacks into some other countries. What we do here is to have a line of defense, but we protect all incoming traffic into any of the countries where we serve with our firewalls. So what we do here is to protect that traffic doesn't leakage information or that doesn't create like a following location for a specific user or implanting some malware in your phone. We will come back to a little bit more details about that. And then finally is data. And what we do here is if you think in the environment of a company, I guess everyone take for granted that you cannot only protect the perimeter in your companies, because if someone wants to get in, most likely will get in. So what we have to do is to have the mechanism inside the network to be able to detect if there is an activity and to be able to follow up that. And that's what we do when we talk about threat detection. What we do is to understand if there is any actor coming inside the network and implanting some kind of software, that it could be a malware, that it can be dormant for a while, but then after that will extract data. So we have the technology here to be able to detect those types of events. So now I will like to tell you a little bit of kind of story, and this is more an introduction for what Anders mentioned before about this SS7. Maybe you recognize the young guys in the picture, and probably you recognize them from the Apple Computers company. But do you know what they have done before that? That was not the first startup they did. The first startup they did was something that was called Blue Box back in the 70s. Blue Box was a DTMF, or it was a box that it was a very simple thing. It was just sending tones into a speaker. And what this was doing basically is to hijack the mobile telephony network. So this was the very first case where they have seen a flaw in the telephony system. And it was basically because at that time, you could have an international call. The international calls were pretty expensive. But they wanted to prove that they could call someone in Europe for free. And what they did was to use this blue box, which was sending these tones in the line. And you could hear the tones. And that was routing information. It was establishing the call to the other end. So with this, they managed to call for free the POP. And if you can probably follow this interview. I think there's a very funny story where they have been trying to wake up the Pope because he was sleeping at that time, and then they realized it was a fake code. But this was the very first time that it was proven that how easy it was to manipulate those networks. And of course, they realized that flow was very much based on that control communication was sent into the channel where you could listen that. With the introduction of mobile phones back in the 90s, this technology came, which was called outbound control, which was basically just to split these two things. On one channel, you send the information, like the control information to establish the cone. On the other channel, you send the voice. And with that, we have introduced this, what we call SS7. SS7 is stands for Signaling System Number 7, and is the way to be able to tell to the other end that I need to call this number. And then the call gets routed to that. It's like in an IP network, it's like the IP address that is sent into this specific channel. The reason why this is important for us to be able to explain you a little bit more what we do is because this is not a problem from the 90s. This is very much here now. What I'm showing to you is a letter sent from the Senator Ron Wyden to the Biden administration that highlight the risk that the U.S. has today in terms of threats and attacks into U.S. citizens from foreign actors, which is recognized as a national security matters because they have been incidents where foreign actors have followed the location of people in the U.S. And that is something that is not only happening in that part of the world, it's also something that is this type of events unfortunately happen all over. And this is very much the problem that we are trying to solve. We are providing the technology to be able to protect users against this type of attacks. You could wonder why we have so many of these attacks and why no one has done anything before. And the reason is because if you look back, and I'd like to talk about this global village. Telecom world was a global village. It was based on trust. So the interconnection between operators was based on trust, and it was only in a very small community that those connections have been done. Over the years, I think there was more and more players coming in, and with that, a lot of more threats. But it was never considered from the very beginning in the design of these networks that you need to have a firewall for signaling to protect about this. So today, what we are doing is basically to provide that to the market. We provide the technology to protect these communications. And we are one of the few in the industry that has a very strong positions to provide these SS7 firewalls. Let's listen now. I think Anders and we have met Niklas from Telia. So I will invite you to listen directly from him what he think about this.
Hi everyone. When you are in security, there is always a lot of opportunities to address. So what is then the current state? The whole digitalization is going in a speed that increases on a daily basis. If you go back like a decade in time, it feels like a few months at that time. It's like 2 days today. Especially having in mind that the AI is coming in with full effect or full force. AI is definitely something that you can use in order to become smarter or become quicker on your end. But definitely AI is something that also the threat actor will use against you potentially. There is also some other things going on. The geopolitical situation, and as I said, the speed of digitalization also brings forward something when I talk to my colleagues in the industries, new vulnerabilities, and that brings forward these vulnerabilities in a speed or in pace that has not been seen before. It's also seen that when a vulnerability becomes public, until it actually gets exploited, that time period is just getting shorter and shorter. When you are a telco, you also, among a lot of other things, need to look into the signaling security side, the SS7, the diameter, the GRX, etc. And we have, during the last years, been together with Enea, been revisiting, updating, tweaking this area in order for us to be able to detect potential threats a lot earlier. We have also been subscribing to the threat intel feeds. These feeds actually makes us a lot smarter, because these feeds might be new threats coming in, might be new indicators of compromise. And it's not only coming from one source, but it's actually coming from a global source of companies. And in the end, it's all about the speed that gives us an advantage to be able to react. The teams that has been part of this program, they are constantly saying that they really appreciate the deep professionalism, for sure, in a company like Enea, but also the ways of working, the ways of challenging us to say, hey, having in mind the new threats coming in, or having in mind the new modus, you need to look into the people dimension, and potentially you need to educate the people in certain areas. You might need to update the processes, or in the end, you might need to do the tuning of the tooling in a new way. And this always has been done with a good spirit, and the spirit comes the whole way from the sales organization into the engineering, and also in a few cases that we've had also in Enea's R&D team. I wish you a great continuation of the day, and thanks also for a great cooperation.
We have a number of customer interviews that we've done, and we've done them online, and we're going to present them here instead of inviting the customer here. But Osvaldo, what's your main takeaway from this interview with Niklas?
Very good. So Niklas began explaining that industries are getting digitalized and that mobile telephony is the backbone for many of those digitalizations. He also pointed out that the number of threats are increasing, and this is also something that we see. What we do together with Enea is to do an analysis of all the incoming traffic and to scan for threats. We bring that data, we compare it to a global view we have about all threats, and then we block all traffics in all Nordic operations. So we are deploying our firewalls around the six operations that they have around the Nordics, so we are providing that protection to Telia. And what he also said that is that there is a need to keep tools updated, the location and fine-tuning processes, because what we see is that this number of threats and issues are scaling. And that type of need for security is also something that we see not only in Telia, but we see it all around the world. And that connects very well also to what we see market analysts are describing. So if we have a look on the outlook for next year, our job is basically to understand, identify where we see pockets of growth. And as you see here on this, there is a significant growth in the intersection between telecom and security. That's where we are positioned and serving that market. There is also growth in the IT security that we do through our embedded solution. And we have growth also related to the communication service providers that will also drive some of our AI tools that we use in our firewalls. And this is what you see here in this summary. So from those pockets of growth, we also see that there are market drivers, that they are pulling growth or possibility for us to do more in these domains. And how we bring this into our strategy for growth, this is what we do here. So of course we want to capitalize or to use the opportunity to be able to growth in our business in both network security. And the way we do this is based on this strategy, which is based on 3 pillars. We call it the triple E. The first one is about enhance. Enhance is very much to improve the existing product offerings by looking into how we can do things better, and also to work very close to customers in order to get feedback about what are the things that they want to do next. Here you see things like the CLI protection and the voice firewall to prevent fake calls. You'll see the threat detections in malwares in DPI, but also you'll see this cyber defense that later Jean-Pierre will talk in government. The next one is about expand, and what it means is that based on a strong foothold that we have today, what we want is to to expand into an adjacent area. That could be an adjacent market or it could be an adjacent solution. So basically, we are topping up what we are doing today with extra functionalities and offering. And what we see them is mainly around the introduction of AI for a number of things. One is about what I described before, the message classification and filtering. We also introduce AI in the signaling networks in order to understand what is the reputation of that communication coming from another country, where we do a reputation base and we analyze on AI patterns what is the type of threat coming associated with that information. And also we want to take a step forward into, we have been embedding our technology into some of the other companies that they are putting this into some products. We also want to take one step into giving a product ready-made solution for cyber defense, mainly targeting the managed security service providers. And then in the both is not only about what is the business we have here now, we also want to invest, do cautious investments into areas where we see growth and potential evolution in the future. And that is things like very much what I mentioned before. You should not only protect a defense line, we should also have something that is, we call it zero trust protection, which is basically to have the mechanism inside the signaling network to be able to detect if there is a player, what the player is doing, and how to protect you even behind these firewalls. Also, we think that there is a unification needed in order to be done in IT versus telecom. When we meet our customers, typically when we meet the CISOs organizations, they are really good at IT security. Telecom has been a little bit more a niche or more secret. So what we are doing here is to bring our threat detection from the telecom world into the IT space. And by that, what we will do is basically to bring Enea more visible into the CISOs organizations, which are very good, well versed in IT securities, but not so much in telco. And of course, that is something that I think Jean-Pierre will talk later, which is that we are doubling down with our capabilities on AI based for classification of traffic. And that is because there is a number of technologies coming along the way. One is TLS 1.3, which is a complete encryption, total blind of the communication. And what we are doing is basically to be one step ahead, to be able to work with AI to classify the traffic before that happens. Those three keys, I think, is setting up for us the agenda for where we see the potential for expanding where we are doing today, growing from our current business, and also evolving this for future phase.
Thank you, Osvaldo.
My pleasure.